live. It looks like it'll stay on there too.
Maybe it did before, and then it cut off about 5 minutes in.
We'll see.
Well, but that's the thing, I mean, it could have been that because there was already
can't
somebody
have
live.
two lives on one Facebook page.
That's what I was thinking.
It would have been different if I was going to their YouTube channel.
Yeah. Well, you can obviously have more than one live on a YouTube channel or to YouTube.
So I'm just making sure. Okay. I was just making sure things are shared out. Okay. Hi, how you doing? So, you wanted to talk about triggers, huh?
Maybe.
If you would have just, I didn't research anything else because you said you had a topic.
So, did you see how easily I triggered you just now?
Funny.
Ah. No.
Bullshit alert.
I put batteries in my
Yes,
button.
I am full of bullshit. Thank you for noticing.
I put batteries in my button today. My bullshit.
I kind of want to wait I want to wait a couple of minutes, see if we get more viewers.
So,
because it'd be good for the viewers to kind of
That was bullshit.
to kind of pop in too, I'm eating Smarties.
yeah. You think they're going to make you smarter?
No, I don't expect them to make me any smarter. But there's a certain orange orangutan that we can feed these to that might make him smarter.
I doubt that.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Anyway, so when's this Sturgis thing your brother's going to?
I don't know. He didn't say. I was talking to him just before I came in here because I wanted to know. All right, remember we sent out all those links to people for that birthday bash.
Yeah, I know.
And then during it, he basically messaged me back and said that he was having trouble with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were thinking, well, maybe he's got an Apple phone because Apple phones
Don't
really
have to think. Don't have to think. He does have an Apple phone.
Huh?
He does have an Apple phone.
No, he doesn't.
No?
He has a Samsung.
He has a Samsung.
Really?
So
I'm actually surprised because I swear to God that I was told he had Apple.
Yeah, well, I explained to him last time or today how to do it. If we ever decide to do something like that again, because all he's got to do is make sure he's got Google Chrome or Google on his phone, and it should work.
Or AVG. The AVG browser will work.
And make
Not
sure
on the phone.
and make sure. Yeah, you can. Yeah,
I think you can with AVG as well on the phone.
because you can put AVG on your phone.
Opera, I don't know if Opera can. I'm using Opera for my browser right now because this is the only one I found that will actually fucking work with this program for us without too much issue, without cutting me out completely. And
Well, I told and then you got to do the thing to accept using your mic and your camera and stuff on the phone.
Yeah. Yep.
So I kind of explained it to him how. I sent out links, but I don't know if anybody will join us. I didn't get any answers.
You ever? You ever get answers?
Well, then I know a lot of people have seen them. You know, I can tell when somebody has seen the link and you know that kind of stuff.
Damn, these things are a little tart tonight.
Tart.
Tart. Smarties aren't supposed to be really tart, but these are. I didn't get the sour ones; they're just normal.
Never heard of Smarties being tart.
They are. They're a little tart.
Maybe you're just getting old.
Nah, not quite there where you're at.
Oh. You know, I saw something, and you know it was a
I see
rich.
a lot of things.
No, it was yesterday or day before. Val Kimner passed away,
Yeah, I knew about that.
and I was reading
That
about
was actually on Tuesday.
and I was
Or
reading
Tuesday
about
evening.
it, and he was diagnosed over a decade ago with throat cancer and had a trach in,
Mm-hmm.
and he wasn't. He lost his voice after that,
Right, he had to use a voice box.
and and so when they did that new Top Gun, the Maverick,
He did his cameo,
he did his thing, but
but
his
they used
lines were
AI. They used AI for his voice.
voice. Yeah.
I know exactly where you're going with that. I know what they did. And the man, he had some really just awesome roles.
Well, the one thing that I was actually glad to see is later you saw the Doors
Uh-huh.
post like a thing about his role that he did on that movie, The
As Jim
Doors, where
Morrison.
he was Jim
Yeah.
Morrison. So he's like, "You're gonna be forever part of the Doors," you know, blah blah blah, because of
Yeah.
that role you portrayed as Jim Morrison. You know,
I mean,
and
he
it's
did a
like,
really good
that
he did a
was
really good job.
that was one of my favorite Val Kilmer movies.
Yeah. He did an awesome job portraying Jim Morrison. And then some of the radio stations I was listening to yesterday. Excuse me. I was listening to one called Jack FM. That's up in the Minnesota area there. It's 1041. And the DJ on there, he was talking about he was in between songs he was talking about Val Kilmer and talking about his passing and his roles as in Top Gun and this is how he said it um, after he got done with his thing just before he started the next song. He's like he said, "Rest in peace, Iceman. You are always our Huckleberry."
Uh,
Now, you think about that. That was actually a really good homage to him,
yeah, I
doing
mean
it that way. You'll
that
always
was
be our Huckleberry.
that was one of his most iconic
Iconic roles.
lines from
Yep.
Tombstone, where he's like, "I'm your Huckleberry."
Yep.
Wait a minute.
He played Doc Holliday in Tombstone.
He played Doc Holliday in Tombstone.
I didn't realize.
Yeah.
So
Why? What? Aren't
so
we friends?
when the Earps and Doc Holliday went on that hunting spree of the people that wore the red slashes, the cowboys,
The Cowboys.
Doc Holliday faced one of them like Johnny something or other, what his name was, and it's
Yeah,
like,
dude was like a very quick draw,
yeah,
and Holiday was afraid that Wyatt would not have a chance against him.
right,
So when Holiday showed up before Wyatt, and he comes around, and
yeah,
dude was all, "You ain't Wyatt." He goes, "I'm your Huckleberry."
yeah, because he had the badge and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
And
remember
actually, that was after Wyatt gave him that badge when he was in the hospital or in the infirmary, and that was he was, he was like really sick at the time, but he was playing a little sicker. And then when Wyatt showed up, he's all mad at Doc, but Doc was like, you know, well, I guess I'll work with the sick as I was.
Yeah, that was a good one. I mean, between that and you know, I mean, he was a mediocre Batman, but his more memorable roles were like Thor's.
Unfortunately, him and George Clooney, when they did the role of Batman in the Tim Burton Batman movies, they no, they did not stick it like Keaton did.
Yeah, well,
Um,
you know, it's still like Val is still not the worst. I
no,
think George Clooney and what's his name, Patterson. That
Patterson sucked. I
yeah,
can't. For
he's
the
the
life of me, I can't
he's
watch
the
that fucking
bottom,
movie.
and then George Clooney's just above him.
You know, I actually was very surprised that Ben Affleck did a good job as Bruce Wayne and Batman
Yeah,
in
well, I'm shocked too
Superman,
because
Batman versus Superman, Doomsday.
I don't like too much of Ben Affleck.
Affleck's a good actor. He just,
I think it's just because he played such a scumbag in Dazed and Confused.
eh,
Because
yeah, it could be because that's all he was.
it's
He was the jock bully.
yeah, he was the
Come on,
biggest bully of
he's
the
who
school.
right. He's who what we would have dealt with in school all the time.
Failed 3 times just so he could be a senior again and do the hazing.
Right. Bullshit like
Didn't
that.
want to grow up.
Yeah, yeah. Thought he was Peter Pan, didn't have to grow up. Yeah, there you go.
Peter Pan syndrome.
Yeah, but he, yeah, I
You know
just
what?
I
I bet
always
you
think of that
anything.
role every time I see Affleck. That's the problem.
I bet you anything. You would fly too if anybody hit your Peter with a pan.
You know, well, that's a joke. How to Peter Pan, how to learn how to fly. Somebody hit your Peter with a pan, you'd be flying too. That's older. That's an old joke.
I don't know. Got to rephrase them occasionally.
Oh. Wow.
So how'd your meatloaf turn out?
Huh?
Oh my god.
I said, how did your meatloaf turn out?
And it was totally infused with green pepper and onions.
Mm.
Well, we tried something new instead of because we.
So it was like a green pepper and onion paste.
So we didn't.
Puree.
So we didn't have.
Paste.
We went to the store first. Oh, and that's another thing I gotta tell you. That's bullshit too. They put the money in your bank, right? And say it's going to get there, it's there a couple of days early, so on and so forth. But when you go to spend that money, your bank account goes in the negative. Yeah. That's fucking Wells Fargo for you.
Your account went in the negative?
Yep.
Because it wasn't actually in there.
but it showed it in there when I was online. You know, I hate shit like that. But anyway, so we went to the store and you know, for us when you know chopping up the onion and the green pepper, we decided to save a little time.
In our eyeballs.
So we chopped up the pepper into smaller pieces, then chopped the onion up and then, you know, quartered it a little bit and threw it in a kind of little mini blender and pureed it. So it
It was
ended
a
up,
food
A
processor.
Ninja Bullet.
yeah, a food
It was a
process.
food processor.
So
Ninja Bullet.
something like that, but still better than the bullet. Anyway, we threw the onion and green pepper in there after you know cleaning them out and you know clean out you know all that stuff that you do before you actually cut it. Threw them in there, pureed that fucker, and boy, it totally infused the whole meatloaf with it. I mean, it got all the way through it. And man, I took and the day after, I told you we had leftover meatloaf mix, right?
Yeah.
So I took it and put it in the fridge overnight. Got up the next morning and I made, you know, took out the hamburger press because we have one of those old, you know, hamburger
Mhm.
presses. Put it in patty. So I put it in like all kind, you know, quarter-pound patties and individually, you know, put each one in a baggie so that they wouldn't stick together. You know, like, and I put it in the freezer. Well, I took one out and made a burger out of it, and oh my god. It was the best burger, you know. There's nothing like a meatloaf burger. I tell you.
Well,
I think that's the way we're going to do it from now on. It also saves on the eyes, you know, with the onion, cutting an onion. It saves the eyes. They don't water up so much.
that's fun.
But it was good. I mean, you know, it's actually the meatloafs, there's only like a small hunk of it left, and it was made in a loaf pan this time. Usually, we make a really big one and put it in a like almost
A cake pan.
a casserole dish,
Right.
you know, or a cake pan. And this time we just decided to go, you know, and do it in the loaf thing, like you know, my mom did it back in the day, and
Yeah.
man,
Fuck my mom. When she'd make a meatloaf,
well,
she'd make it in a bread pan.
well, she wasn't. My mom wasn't the best cook in the world, right? My brother and I could always outcook my mom because we were taught by the best. All right. I was taught by my dad and my grandma, and Dwayne learned from my dad and Mike. And anyway, when my mom made things, she like the things she made the best were when she made meatloaf. It was always really good, and there was never any leftovers of her meatloaf. And then she made these Salisbury steaks in the slow cooker, right? She'd go out and buy cube steaks, and anybody that knows anything about cube steaks is if you fried them up and try to make a hamburger out of them, they'd be tough like leather,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you didn't cook cube steaks just right, they'd be tough. Oh my God. She cooked them in the slow cooker and turned them into Salisbury steaks, and oh, they turned out so tender and delicious. You know, and then she made that tater tot casserole, and she made it the way my brother and I liked it the best, not the way that was traditionally made, where you use cream of mushroom soup. You know, I couldn't stand that or mushrooms. She used the cheese soup with it and added a lot of cheese.
Mm.
So her tater tot casserole was very cheesy, and very good. There was those few things that she wasn't the type that she could burn burn a boiling pot of water. I mean,
like somebody I know.
she just wasn't uh, an all around cook that would cook a lot of things from scratch. You know, breakfast, she'd make me real easy. I have a problem with it because I'm just in too much of a hurry, I think, sometimes when I'm cooking. But my mom used to make me some of the best egg sandwiches in the morning.
You're in too much of a hurry, regardless of your cooking. You're always in a hurry.
So, but you know,
Oh, hi Kim.
hi, how are you? How you doing, Kim? Yeah, your mom was a real good cook, but she had a lot of mouths to feed.
I learned how to cook.
My mom only had Dwayne and I. Your mom had, let's see, 5 of you, 6 of you. You know,
I learned how to cook from my mother, my adopted grandmother, and my cousin Pat, who ran a restaurant for 10 years.
well, we didn't grow up with all the best benefits in the world, like some kids did. Where you had just about anything and everything you wanted. I remember one time, and if she's still here, I'm sure she'll correct me if I'm wrong. But they used to live on Castor over by the Coliseum. Ruskin Castor over there.
Mm-hmm.
They lived in this house, and I remember one summer, and I'm pretty sure if I remember it right, we took like maple syrup out of and poured it onto like a cookie sheet to make taffy.
Hmm.
We did that a couple of times. And then there was in that same area, oh my God, I don't know if they're still there, but there was an apple tree right across the street. You didn't really want to eat the apples off that one that entered. I can't remember the name of the park there that's right by Coliseum, between the Coliseum and Coster Road. There's a park. No, 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 no. This park is just like a swing side, you know. And we'd go over there and do things like they'd come out, and they don't do this anymore. They had like a shed, they'd unlock it, and there was something called GIMP, and they'd sit there and make things with it. All right, so there was like a craft thing there too, but the apple tree outside that park, it was right at the entrance. You wouldn't want to eat the apples off that apple tree because they'd give you the shits. They were like for baking. But a few houses down, they had a small apple orchard with red delicious apples and stuff like that. The ones you could actually pick off the tree and eat. Oh, we'd get in trouble because they didn't like us picking their apples.
See, Joe knows about the apple tree giving you the shit, give you the shits.
Well, they were
he'd
great.
always go. He'd always go eat them.
They were Granny Smith apples. You weren't supposed to be eating those.
And then he'd start getting that stomach ache, having to run home, and he'd leave little drops of trail like a bunny all the way home.
An ass. Then there was also what were those called? There was in the park. There was what they were all they were bushes of berries, and the berries looked like mini grapes.
Oh, raspberries, blueberries, blackberries,
No, they looked like,
or not blueberries, but
Yeah,
blackberries, and
to
raspberries.
blackberries.
well, anyway, I don't know what they were.
Blackberries and raspberries look like they're a little cluster. That look like a mini grape,
Yeah.
Yeah.
mini cluster
Well,
of
we
grape.
used to eat those off the bushes in the park because
I
there
think
Yeah,
was
I
like
think
3 or 4
blackberries are the ones
rows.
that grow wild the most.
There was 3 or 4 rows of those berries growing wild in that
and
park.
then you have mulberry trees too.
So, but that park, I'll tell you, that park. One of the worst things. There was 2 bad things that happened in that park. I remember we were jumping off the swing side. Swings. We'd run. People did that, right? Well, as kids, we always ran barefooted a lot. Okay, and I jumped off the swing barefooted. You know, I was doing it a lot, and just this one time, I happened to get very unlucky, and I got stung on the bottom of a foot by a big old bumblebee. Man, that fucker hurt. And then I'll never forget. We were up by the shelter one time, and we saw, like, it must have been somebody's pet that they let loose, because there's no, those snakes aren't native to Wisconsin, let alone Madison. But there was like a big old python, or what's the other one? What's the other one? Boa.
Boas, python.
The ones that people have for pets. They can get
Mhm.
up to 6 feet plus long. Somebody
Yeah,
let one loose out in that park. That was somebody's pet. And I'll never forget that, running across that and being scared shitless in that fucking park. I don't even know if that park still exists. If it does, there's probably not much left of it.
don't know. But
Uh,
anyway,
I was just looking to see if anything. I sent my links out. I'm
like you
surprised.
liking it.
I'm surprised Tom's not here yet. Probably still be
Yeah,
making dinner for his dad and stuff.
he could be.
He wasn't on the. Well, usually that there's a show. Well, have a good day. Thanks for stopping in, Kim.
Bye, Kim. Hi, Kim. Bye, Kim.
Now my train derailed.
That's easy to do for you.
Oh, bite me.
You're good at derailing.
Oh, the podcast that's usually still going on BB3, and that's why we lost the BB3 link the last few times. Tom and Nick are usually on it, but see, that one was over before we started. So, and Tom and Nick were not on it today. I was watching it, the first 5 or 10 minutes, because I do that, and then I decide, well, join maybe, because Tanya's like, I thought you'd be on a podcast when I got home. Well, I wasn't interested today, you know. But I still having problems with my right hand a little bit and arm. I'm trying. It's getting better
Yeah.
slowly, but I haven't tried because of the typing, I'm trying to get back to close to normal so that it's easier for me to type than just type one handed to try to get a guest for tomorrow night. Now, that being said, I heard talk about this, and this is kind of a switch because we don't usually, but we can, doesn't matter. Um, I heard talk about these three. I'm pretty sure that it was these three guys that they were talking about. Um, you don't usually see, and I've never noticed it before until recently, I guess, when it was said, but they were talking, well, you don't usually see black people interested in the paranormal enough to go out and do investigations, right? And I thought about it, and it's like, nope, because those guys that we ran into on that one road where the bridge was covered with the graffiti and it was mosquito infested that day out there, we were getting eaten alive.
Those weren't
Those
black guys. Those were
those guys were
Hispanic.
Mexican, right? And they're still going pretty strong with their YouTube channel and stuff. But I saw these three guys that they were talking about, three black guys, and they're called Ghost Brothers. And they were at it was like a two-part series on that show that Josh Gates does with Expedition X.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They went out to Mackinac Island. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go there. I really want to go there. That place, they were there. Hi, Braxton. How you doing? The Mackinac
Hi.
Island. Mackinac Island is extremely haunted.
Supposed to be, yeah.
Oh, they were at the lighthouse and got activity there, but
St. Charles.
they were at a house, an actual house, and man, they were getting all kinds of activities. Now, I'm not big on the apps that are on your phone, right? But there's an app that mimics what's called the ghost box, you know, where it scans and it picks up, things like that. They were getting a lot of activity on that, but what was really impressive is that they were getting a lot of activity on the REM pod and stuff. And the one guy that's part of Josh's team, I forget his name, but
Mm-hmm.
he's a skeptic. He's there more for he's more of an expert on the wildlife, and he he actually started believing in those ghosts out there because of the activity.
I'm making it.
Yeah, the Ghost Brothers joined them for the second show, part two of the, they had a part one, hour episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, we think we might need a little help out here. You want to send reinforcements? That's, his team talking to Josh Gates back in New York. And he says, yeah, I'll see what I can get you, what I can find for reinforcements. And he gets a hold of these three guys, and they're called Ghost Brothers. And I would love to have them on our Friday night show.
Well, then try to
You
get
know,
on.
I think they're based out of Michigan too, if I'm not mistaken. I know they got YouTube channel because Nick, if Nick were here, you know, Nick, if you're listening, you should be here. You know, if he was here, he could answer that question. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, right there. There you go. He's the leader. But they would be really interesting. I like the way they did things. I was intently watching this show yesterday. It was Expedition X was on yesterday that I was watching this. Not only do I want to go to that place, but those guys were, I like the way they did things. You know, not somebody that's just in it for the fame and the profit and, you know, that kind of stuff. They're in it to
Mm-hmm.
get the questions answered, find out the truths, you know.
No, kind of like what we try to do.
Right. You know, and they've got the way they do things is, you know, and the equipment they use. The only thing you know, is they got using those cell phone apps. You know, I'm not convinced on those yet.
Yeah, I've heard of some of those apps. I'm not certain about using them.
But they were getting answers. They were getting, you know, and it was clear as day. But like I said, it was like an app that mimics a spirit box, or, you know, the one that
Mm-hmm.
scans through the radio frequencies and
Yeah.
picks, you know. But I don't know.
Well, what don't you know?
I don't know.
You just don't know. No.
Oh yeah, I've seen that too. That one's on TV. The most terrifying places in America. And one of those places is actually getting boycotted right now. And we almost had a chance to go to that place, and it's too bad we didn't. They were filled up. There was no room for us to join, and it's one of those ones that we're gonna have to, like, say later. You know, it's like, damn, because it sounds like there might not be a chance to ever go there at this point. But they were. It was Melissa Axe Murder House. We had the chance to go there when we were doing the Buddy Holly crash site, and for our school in Maxwell, Iowa. You know, Dale was going to the Melissa house too, but they were all pulled up when. But it sounds like, you know, people are getting super greedy, and, you know, that's another thing. I've noticed a lot of people are talking about that, especially in the UK, but it's happening here too. It's like you get a site, and, like, they're gonna. I can't think of one right offhand, but I don't want to. You know, like Joliet Prison. To tour Joliet Prison, it costs money. They're talking about how some of these people are charging an arm and a leg. You know, per person. You know, they don't have like a group rate or anything like that. And it's like ticket prices. You know, to see a good concert. Do you remember what we used to pay? And I know you're not a big fan of it, but I'm using this as an example because I've noticed those tickets have gone up, skyrocketed through the roof
You
too.
talking about the wrestling?
Yeah. Though we were getting like real good seats, not too far from the ring and stuff like that for like $35. Okay. Back when we used to go, we were only like, a few rows from ringside, you know. Now $35 won't even get you in the front fucking door.
Mm-mm.
You know, to get a ringside seat now, it's almost like $400, $500. To get that kind of a seat at a concert, some of those concerts now, you're talking thousands of dollars. And it's like, who the fuck has $1,000 to waste on a concert ticket that's only going to last for like 3 or 4 hours?
I sure don't.
I mean, I love my concerts and I like going to concerts, but I'll be damned if I pay that kind of money for tickets. You know, and it's like even the ones for the state fair. Some of those are shooting up into 65 and $100 for the top talent that they just to get good seats. And some of those aren't, and it's like that venue's almost like doesn't have front row seats unless it's reserved or anything like that. It's more like standing room only, bring your own lawn chairs because it's on the fucking racetrack, the Milwaukee Mile. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Man, those tickets used to be a general admission of like 30, $35, and now they've gone up and almost tripled that for some of the top talent there.
Yeah, I know it's crazy what prices are for to go see anybody do a concert anymore. It's just fucking outrageous.
Yeah, I'd like to go. You know where I'd really like to go, Braxton, one of these days? I'd like to check out New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Yep,
Say it right. New Orleans.
whatever.
It's New Orleans. God, boy, you need to learn how to talk Southern whenever you talk about New Orleans.
No, I can only talk redneck.
Well, there are some rednecks down there as well.
You know?
Now, the only thing I can't do is talk Creole. I haven't learned how to talk Creole yet. So, anyway. Oh, fudge. So, anyway, we got any more viewers than what we did?
No.
No. Just got Braxton over here throwing stuff at us. Hi, Braxton. Kimmy had to leave. Huntwise said hi way back when. No Tommy tonight. I can't pester him.
No. Don't know where he is.
The goddess probably has him by the balls, dragging him around town.
He's whipped. Yep, he's whipped.
He is. He is whipped.
Seafood mac and cheese.
But anyway, other people can actually look at this and see what I'm talking about. So, what my topic originally was that I was going to bring up is things that would cause you to trigger. You know, for Joe and I, we're Gen Xers. We're the fuck around and find out generation. We fucked around and we found out And a lot of times, what we found out wasn't exactly what we wanted to find out, but we did. You know, we found out, we learned our lessons, and we never did it again, or we did it a different way to see if we had different results of the outcomes. Um, but yeah, we you know, it was a fuck around and find out. um, but just kind of wondering, um, I was gonna
Ooh, that just sounds good. I'm glad I already ate though.
seafood casserole and crawfish with garlic mashed tater. Oh God, oh hell yeah!
Sounds good.
Crawfish is really good. Basically miniature lobsters. They're like they're like an in between a lobster
An
and
in between.
crawfish are like an in between
So
a
it's like
lobster and a shrimp.
it's like another version of poor man's lobster, right?
Kind of, yeah, because those you can go fucking catch crawfish anywhere.
Right out in the crawfish
They're,
river.
they're all over the fucking place.
You-
And yes, they are considered a crustacean, just like a lobster would be, or a shrimp.
You know, I don't know if that's true, but I wonder if that's really the reason that's called the crawfish river.
Maybe, may absolutely be why. But
Yeah.
what I was talking about, what my topic was going to be, is mostly trigger or pointed towards Gen Xers. Is when you're listening to music, do you ever come across anything that triggers you, like a song that will trigger memories of your past and make you sit there and think about things, and maybe make you wish that you did things differently, or trigger you to where you remember certain things you did when they were during that time, during the time that song came out, or like products or something, surfing around on the internet and you come across something that you haven't seen in freaking years since you've been a kid or something.
A lot of that makes me feel old.
I mean, here's a good example. Okay, and this is one of the reasons I went when Lisa and I took Lisa shoe shopping. She wanted to get some tennis shoes, so I took her to the outlet mall over in Johnson Creek. Well, we went to they had a Famous Footwear there, and right next to the Famous Footwear,
Outlet
wait,
mall, Johnson Creek.
Johnson Creek Outlet Mall.
That ain't an outlet mall.
Yes, it is.
No,
Yeah, it is.
That's what it's called.
that's what it's called, but it's not an outlet mall.
It's strip malls.
It's a strip mall.
It's an outlet mall, Joe.
It's not an outlet mall. Anyway,
It's a fucking outlet mall.
no, it's not.
So anyway, we went to the Famous
It
Footwear,
may have
and
been about 20 years ago.
and right next to it, there's an actual toy shop. Okay. And I went ahead and went in there.
Really? There's a toy shop there now?
Yeah.
It's been there for years, man. It's been there for
Really?
a long time.
What's
Anyway,
it called?
huh?
What's it called?
I don't know what the fucking name is. I didn't pay
Well,
attention
you
to
should
that.
know this.
So anyway, I walk in there, and first thing I see when you walk in the door, off to your left, is a bunch of fucking stuffed animals. So you got big old fucking big rack of shit stuffed animals. Off to the right is the counters for checking out, and then you got off on the back wall, you've got board games, you've got um, puzzles, you got calendars. And the calendars were 75% off. Some of the puzzles were like 50% off. A bunch of stuff was on clearance and stuff. And then, I'm in there walking around browsing, and there was like nothing resembled what you and I had in our childhood, in our
Oh, no, of course
during
not.
our time. And, except for there's one, and it's hard to it's hard to explain it. Do you remember it was about yay long, It looked like triangles on it, but there were two different colors. You had, some of them were white and blue, some of them were red and blue, some of them were yellow and blue, and you can make shapes out of it because it was, done at the corners or done a certain way. You can either make it long, or you can make a cube out of it, or you can make just
Oh,
different
it
shapes.
kind of like it's like something that came out right around the same time that they invented the Rubik's cube. They were trying to come up with all these.
Pretty much, yeah. And they did have a shit ton of Rubik cube down in the back too.
I forgot what that thing was called, but yeah, it was like a snake-like thing because you could move it
Right.
sideways, but
Right.
they were all triangle type pieces.
Right, they were all triangle pieces
You know,
and
it's
attached in
like
certain
either
ways.
red and white or blue and yellow.
Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about with that.
Right, right. You could, yeah.
But they had that, and then they had some Rubik's cubes. But those are the only things that I really found in that store that even resembled anything
But-
similar to what we would have had in our, back in the 80s and 90s when we were kids.
You have to take the road trips with Tanya and I when we go on some of these trips.
I want to, one of these days, I want to get up to Rochester, Minnesota, without having to work.
Well,
because there is along Highway 52. 52 runs through the middle of Rochester. Along Highway 52, there's a strip mall you can see from the highway, and one of the stores in there is called Legacy Toys.
Yeah, well, there.
And if that name refers to any type of toy they got in that store, then it's possible they've got the stuff from our time.
Well, there is. Let's see. I know there's at least two of them because I've been to at least two or three of them, and I know where one is. It's way up north, like up in the Thumb area, and I think that one was called Freaks Toys. Freaky's Toys or whatever. Anyway, the minute you walk into that, you're taken back in time to our childhood. You've got the Star Wars action figures, the original land speeders, and for those action figures. You also had, yeah, it's a little more modern, but they had big statues of like a stormtrooper and you know uh, some other things. But all those toys, I mean, you had Hot Wheels with the actual red stripe around the tire. Just about it. Oh, the clock. I remember these clocks because I used to have one, and I think I might have even posted one in Retro Review. It was like an alarm clock, and it had Batman, and the alarm would be like Batman and Robin from the 1960s TV series, Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Talking to wake you up in the morning. They had those old clocks, vintage clocks there. They had so many toys. It was like walking through a fucking museum of my childhood. I love places like that. But music always triggers memories, good and bad.
Well, I looked it up, and there went my fucking idea.
What's that?
The store officially closed for good on the 10th last month.
The one in Minnesota?
Yep, that one in the Legacy Toys up in Rochester. I was looking it up, and there was a news thing, a News 6 thing on it, and I looked, and it's what it said.
I think the one though is still.
But then another one's showing it. show it says it's open now. That
Hmm.
doesn't fucking make sense. But looking at it, it doesn't look like it's got any of the stuff from like our time.
No, here you go. Let's see. I gotta remember how to do this. Watch this. I want to go back to this toy store, but I'm gonna.
Yeah, those are rare items, man.
Sega Master System.
Yeah, the Master System, $200. You've got the 4.
Well, I'm not saying the
That's
price
the 4-player. Then the NES Sports set for $350.
I
Then
get
the
this.
NES for
Prices,
$300.
the prices might be a little high, but
PS2
at
carrying
the same
fee.
time, when do you think you're ever going to find the Sega Master System complete in the box?
Well, that's a hard thing to do.
You
I
know,
agree.
and there's the Odyssey,
Yep.
and this is this is just that's just
$200 for a Nintendo Entertainment System.
I'm trying to get down to the. All right,
Hmm.
so then you got like things that aren't in all the. Oh, this is an event happening. But you got like the Pokemon Game Boy games. It's
Mhm.
not all games in here. All right, there you go. You got some action figures,
Well, yeah,
wrestling action
I
figures.
get that. Those are games right there. And then you got those look like models to put together. Comic books.
More video games.
Mm-hmm.
But they're showing all the video games on their Facebook page mostly, not some of the real old retro stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a guy girl, as my son called them. The guy girls.
Gargoyles.
Nick used to call them
And
guy
that's
girls.
actually the female gargoyle that was there. The guy girls, huh?
Yeah, that's he couldn't pronounce gargoyles. But this store, these pictures do not do the store justice. They really don't. I hate to say it. I mean, that their Facebook page is mostly showing some of the action figures and a lot of video games, but when you're in that store, it's a total different experience. Now it does. See, this is the only thing I don't like. They gotta fix this.
I love it when other people think the way I do.
What?
I've also got my Facebook page up. I'm kind of looking. There was somebody that posted this. It says a concept turning dead malls into homeless shelters. And hear me out. Malls have food courts, which can be easily renovated into a cafeteria that is able to hold and feed lots of people. Stores can be converted into rooms, food banks, daycares, classrooms, clinics, etc.
Oh yeah, I saw they were talking. Somebody said that they should. What was that famous one? One of the. I used to go there all the time. Not the. There was a big one in Milwaukee, And
Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about. It's one that was it was the same one that was featured on um, Night of the Living Dead
it
the
was all
remake.
right. It's like abandoned, and yeah, they filmed in there and stuff like that because it's got
Hmm.
graffiti all over the place. But there was a recent thing where it came up once on my Facebook page where they were talking about what to do with it. You know, the city of Milwaukee was trying to decide what to do with it, and the demolition was about to begin and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
in the comments part, I was reading the comments, and dude said exactly the same thing you said. They should renovate it, you know, paint the walls, you know, repair some, you know, not tear it down, just renovate it a bit, and turn it into a one giant homeless shelter, you know, or you know, cheap housing.
Well, yeah, and that's what honestly, instead of tearing them down, renovate them, and yeah,
Well, it's cheaper.
turn them into like homeless shelters, turn them into cheap housing or something like that.
Yeah, cheap housing,
And
a homeless
here's the
shelter.
thing. Here's the thing. You know, all the places that were the stores, they've got bathrooms in them.
Yeah,
They got plumbing in them for bathrooms. All you
yeah,
got to do is just add a couple of, just
and
add a couple more things.
like you said, you know, with almost every mall after a certain point, we're definitely had food courts in.
Well, yeah, you most every mall
So
had a food
then,
court in it,
then you know,
and
you
then your central area, you can have your central area where the foot traffic was. You can have that all set up for areas for the people to walk around and
yep,
exercise, and you know,
yep,
like meeting and greeting
you know,
places too.
because with the you know, having a food court in it, well, you know, all you got to do is kind of like refurbish that stuff, and then you give them all a store, you know, place to for the community to cook as a whole. If you turn it into a homeless shelter, well, they can cook their meals right there, or you know, somebody can come in and help. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to
Hmm.
do. Instead of tearing them down, turning it into another mall, which will just end up empty in about 5 to 10 years because the stores don't want to pay the high rent. You know, malls are a thing of the past because of all the online shopping you can do,
Yes.
and with a lot of the online shopping, it's you can do it within the comfort of your own home, which makes more anti-socialites. You know, and they a lot of these places, like if you got Amazon Prime or whatever, if you order over a certain amount, free shipping. You can get free shipping just about everywhere. You know,
Pretty
Walmart.
much. Yeah.
Order a certain amount and it comes with free shipping. So there's no incentive for anybody to go to the mall. You know, when you can shop from the comfort of your own home in your underwear. You know, it's just and they need to come up with better solutions than just tearing it down, building a brand new strip mall somewheres that ends up they get a few good shops in there, and after about 5 or 6 years down the road, 10 years down the road, it's empty. You know, I saw them built one once over by Southtown Mall. Remember where Southtown Mall used to sit
Yeah.
in Madison?
I know where you sit.
Right on the other side of
It
Broadway,
still sits there.
they built like a blue strip mall. It stayed empty after it was built. It stayed empty for years. And then I think it was like a Chinese restaurant went in there, and then a laundromat went in there, and they only last. So it was a total waste of time because it was kind of like on the corner. There was an off ramp to the belt line, and you know So it was kind of like on a
Hmm.
corner there, on the corner there. And there was a bar behind it and all this. But it stayed empty. And I mean, after it was built, it didn't even get shops put in right away. It just had for lease signs in the windows for years. And it's like, damn.
Yep.
You know,
It's just that, you know,
I'd never do that anyways. You know, if you're gonna go into a brick and mortar place for a shop, here's what I do. Nowadays, your best bet is if you're going to create a little mom and pop store, is whatever town you live in or whatever town you want to put this shop in, make it you just go down Main Street and look for the vacancies in the older built, and at the same time you're renting out and making it impossible for them to destroy history, part of history, because you're in a historic building like that,
mhm.
like that bar that's here in that one bar here in
Oh,
Watertown.
you mean like that bar, like the bar they took down over here in Madison on Broadway
What
when
bar was that?
when they built that fucking that car wash for the PDQ that was there before Quick Trip bought them all out.
Oh, Buckeye.
Not Broadway, but Buckeye. Yeah, the Buckeye Inn.
Yeah.
They should have never took that one down.
No.
That one should have been saved as a historical. And the one that didn't get torn down needs to be torn down. It's a fucking horseshoe.
Hmm. But like those, like if you go like down, Madison doesn't have like a main, but say Watertown or Fort Atkinson, or the smaller towns, you go down Main Street. It's a bunch
Hmm.
of old. I mean, you look at the buildings; they're old, right?
Yeah.
But they've always got shops in it. Like there's a donut place here, a bakery down here on Main Street, the little Main Street restaurant, and all that. You know, you put something down there, it's fairly cheap rent, and you've got everything is a lot cheaper than a strip mall, is what I'm trying to get in. And strip malls are nothing but a thing of the past that they fucked up and could never get right. And malls. I mean,
You're right.
the malls are going to hell. I mean, have you been down to like in Janesville Mall lately?
No, I have not. I know that it's not there's not as much down there as it used to
Well,
be.
no, there's not much down there. If you've been there within the last few years, you like, huh? And then you go like 20, 30 years ago, and it's like big fucking difference, you know? Because you had restaurants, you had a food court, you had, all kinds of different specialty stores that you wouldn't find anywhere else.
Hmm.
Well, now that mall consists of maybe 5, 6 shops, little restaurant or two, you know,
They
and
still, I think they still have a pennies in there.
and the thing still pretty much is mostly empty now. East Town, West Town, or another, it's their high rent that they charge. Places can't, you know, I mean, I'm surprised some of those stores are still there after all these years, and they actually make it.
Hmm.
They never used to have those centerpieces either, where you could rent out the center carts, and have the stores down. That all, you know what that used to be? those malls, East Town and West Town, I had a lot of in the center of the walking areas. You had a lot of seating and
Mm-hmm.
and a few waterfalls and stuff like that.
I know.
Nothing like that no more. They tore it all out and turned it so they could make more money. And I'd never pay for the space to be in a mall because they get more money than they should. So I actually, so yeah, that's a thing of the past.
Malls are things of the past unless they're in really big cities where and there's only one mall. Big cities with only one mall, then maybe the mall's going to survive.
Yeah, like Mall of America.
Well, yeah, Mall of America is actually literally in the best position it can be in because it's right next to the airport.
Right. But still, I'm just saying, that's got like an amusement park inside and all that. I mean, I don't know how long it's going to last, but I'd like to go there once in my lifetime before.
I've never been to Mall of America.
Neither have I.
Maybe we should all get together and go up there.
I've never, I remember, when I was like dating Brenda, back in the day, she loved taking road trips,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just at a spur of the moment, we're going to jump in the car and take a road trip. And half the time, she wouldn't tell me sometimes where we were going. But a few of those times, we went down to like the Grand Avenue Mall in Milwaukee, and then there was another really big mall there was a couple of them in Milwaukee. And then there was, we went to some of these malls and they were something else. I mean, the Grand Avenue Mall and the one they call it, whatever, the Grand Mall in Milwaukee. That one was one of my favorites because it didn't have a lot of big chain stores in it. It had a lot of these specialty type shops, kind of like Spencer's, uh, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like it's like you go there and it's like, damn, I wish I would have brought more money with me or something, because it's all one of those things that's like, wow, I didn't know they had a store that, it was just one of those cool places to go. Or the one in Green Bay that we stayed in, because we went up to Bay Beach, the amusement park that was kind of still set in the 50s as far as the prices go, you know.
Yeah.
So we stayed at this mall where it was like you had a mall, there was a museum inside. It was set right by the river there up near Green Bay, and it was sitting right next to a drawbridge, and the one restaurant we were allowed, you could sit out on the deck there and eat and look it over and stuff. But that was another one of those really interesting malls because of the way they did it. You had a hotel attached to the mall, restaurants, not fast food. You had restaurants sitting right along the riverside. Some of them had outside seating, and they had a children's museum in the mall as well, and it was really cool. Well, we took
Mm-hmm.
all three kids up there to Bay Beach. Never forget that time up in Bay Beach. I threw out my shoulder. All Nick's fault. We got into a what do you call that? Batting cage with where it automatically pitched the balls at you.
Yeah.
And it was just something we found, uh, you know, like next to a gas station or something on the roadside there. So Nick and I got out and we started doing that, and it's like, there's that, father and son type competition and stuff. And man, after we were done, must have went through, total about $20 worth of quarters. And I think I threw out my shoulder real bad because it's like, fuck, you know. But it was all in the, all in the name of fun, you know. But
Yeah, I know.
you don't find some of the, it's like the malls that do exist now are full of big box stores, big price tag items. You know, you don't find all the specialty shops anymore. And Spencer's has gone downhill too. Man, that's almost like walking into an adult bookstore in the middle of the mall.
Yeah, I know. I know what Spencer's was
Well,
or is.
is now, but was back in the day. It's like you could find all the black lights for your room, black light posters galore. You could find all that kind of stuff. The beaded curtains for your doorway. You hang the beaded curtains. You find, you
Mm-hmm.
know, all. I mean, I love the way it used to be. The way Spencer's used to be back in the day was a lot better than what it's turned into.
Yeah, I know. See, the thing is, Spencer's is nationwide, so we had Spencer's out there too
Oh, in
in Cali.
California.
Yeah,
Yeah. What mall is that? And
the
where is
mall.
it at?
What?
Why is there dead air?
I don't know why there's dead air. Because Mark's done talking.
I'm not done talking. You're done talking. You're over there not saying stuff. You were jabbering on and on and on. Well, where's Ashley at? She's up by Oshkosh, right?
I think so. The last I knew, she was in Appleton, and I think it's called Fox Valley. Oh, the Fox
The
Valley Mall.
Fox Valley Mall. Yeah, that's
I think I've been there once.
I think I know where it's at actually.
Oh, it ain't gonna
What
be
kind of
long.
specialty stores you talking about there, Ash?
It ain't gonna be gone. It ain't gonna be long. And what is that date? We're in April already, right?
Yeah, we're in April already.
Damn it. There was an event. There's an event happening sometime soon. Oh, you find. There we go.
There's an event happening.
Oh,
Soon.
that's this May 9th through 11th in Appleton. It's the one I want to go to. Um, that's the one where it would be whatever Saturday is. I think Saturday would be I just had that up too. So that'd be the 10th. So May 10th
Be Kayla's
is
birthday.
the one that uh the it's a Wisconsin Cryptids Anomaly and Paranormal Convention 2025. It's in Appleton, Wisconsin. That weekend of May, 9, 10, and 11. So I'll be going up there on the 10th for that because Miranda Young is going to be there. So, and it's run by
Sounds like it might be fun.
it's hosted by my buddy Barnaby Jones in Wisconsin Caps. So, and I think this one was like, what was it? $30 online or 40 at the door.
Uh-huh.
So, and I plan on getting the tickets on May 1st. So, because I kind of overspent because we needed groceries. So I, I spent a lot of money out of my check because of that, but it had to have been done. So, because things were getting bad.
Well, sorry.
So I'm going to do that May 1st. Order the tickets online to save me $10 a ticket. So I don't pay at the door. So, and I'm going to go up there with camera, make sure I take my cameras and stuff. And I'm going to try to also have enough money with me so I can buy some of those patches. For my vest, for my new vest.
Yeah.
Because when I buy the new vest, I'm going to make that trip to, where was it? Where was that? West Allis. I'm going to make that trip to West Allis. Talk to that lady. Because I still have to have the skull and wings, and I don't trust. See, because of that, the T-shirt we had made, it kind of looked like the business card right here on the front, and like a patch, right?
Yeah.
Remember that one? That one's all peeling and stuff now too. But I don't want them to take a look at the business card and have all that white of the business card around it. You know, I'm going to take it to this lady and she'll make the embroidered patch because she's got one of those machines that I've been seeing, the Ricoma or whatever they're called. They've got multiples because she can embroider right directly to the hat or the garments, but she can also make patches. And I'm going to have her make the patch for the center. I've already got the rocker arms coming. You know,
Yeah.
But I just don't trust having that done online, and then they don't send me a proof for nothing, and it comes back looking like some big piece of you know shit thing. So I don't want to. I got ideas. I don't think it's going to be a while before I see anything from that thing we were talking. That thing
I
that
know.
on.
You know.
So, but I've been wanting these patches and new vests ever since I've seen Nick's vest. Right, he's got the paranormal investigator rocker arms and stuff like that. Well, I want one, and I just don't want to wait to make the patches. So I don't know what kind of deal I can get. I'm gonna go there when I ask her, and show the logo and say this is what I want. I know she does it because she's got a sign that says she will make the custom patches for vests. So, and that's also where I found, and I'll put that one on it too because I'm always gonna have that one. This one. I'm gonna have this on because I'm gonna keep this vest too, but I just can't. I just can't ruin that embroidered eagle on the back.
Oh no, no.
I'd rather.
Is that embroidered or is that stamped?
Well, it's embossed. It's like a stamp, leather stamped or whatever. I would like to get it airbrushed, though. In to make it stand out more. But that lone wolf patch at the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
I got I got that from that lady down in West Dallas, and then that Mothman and Ghost patch. Those
Yeah.
I got from Barnaby Jones. So, but I want to get. I got to get a second vest for that, just to make for a paranormal vest. So it's all paranormal stuff on the back, but it's got to have a. There's no way I put a patch over that eagle. You know, there's not many of those vests left, and it was bought at um, that Wilson's leather store that used to be inside of Easttown Westtown Mall. Oh.
Yeah, no, that.
And I
Wilson. There's still Wilsons around.
but it was something I can't remember what it used to be before that. It was a leather store before that, and then it basically just went through a name change, and they became Wilsons. And I was buying leather there before it was called Wilsons because you could put the stuff on layaway, and pay for it, monthly or weekly or whatever the arrangement was. And that's how I got my first two leather jackets, and the first one was kind of a dress leather because it was super cheap, super thin, you know, and I got problems because I would wear that all summer long. It'd be 90 degrees outside and I'm wearing a leather coat. Now I couldn't do that with the biker leather. That thing's way too fucking heavy for that. I mean, there's times that I'm out and it's 50, 60 degrees and I can get too warm in that jacket nowadays. The cold doesn't bother me too much unless.
What do you mean the cold doesn't bother you too much?
Do you realize how much Tanya says she's cold when she comes home at night in here? And I'm going, are you nuts? I think it's a little warm. You know, I don't get as cold as much as I used to, except for if I'm really tired or if my legs are in a lot of pain. Then I have a problem. And if the air is damp. But I couldn't I couldn't do like I did when I was younger and go out in the middle of the summer wearing my leather coat. That wouldn't work, you know. Because if I get too hot and too overheated, I end up passing out. Um, but, but that's my plan. It's already been shipped too, and it pisses me off. I thought they were supposed to send me a proof before they sent it off. So I'm hoping when it gets here, they look good and look like otherwise I'm following a thing with Amazon and saying, I want a refund. I had to do that with my pipes. Pissed me off. They never showed up. There were four of them. They were about this size, four of them, for the price that I'd pay for one at an adult, because you have to, to find metal pipes, you have to go to an adult bookstore. So I went, the one in Madison that used to be there. What was it called?
The adult bookstore,
Whatever it was called, Selective, whatever.
Selective Video.
Yeah. They'd want $11-12 for one of these metal pipes, right? I was going to get four of them for that price, and they never showed up, and I had to get a refund. So, and I've looked and there's nothing like that except from that one place. And it's like, I don't trust to try it again. You know, but these patches, I hope they show up and they look good, because if they do, then my next step is going to that lady after I find myself a vest.
Yep. Get them put on vest.
Well, that, and I want to, like I said, she might charge a setup fee or whatever, but then after that it might be cheaper, because like I said, if you go down there, you get the eagle and wings thing, because she makes, it's what I was going to do, but I'll take, my ideas down to her, and maybe someday I'll end up ordering a whole bunch of them from her anyways and just give them away online. Who knows what kind of deal I can work in. But we're getting to the end. Nobody else is
Are we?
up.
It's only 6:37. Call it early tonight.
Yeah.
That's all right. I can go use a can.
I don't have a guest for tomorrow, so we don't have to do tomorrow either. But I will be looking into it as soon as I can start getting my fucking hand to work right, so I can type. And then I got the lady coming here tomorrow, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Oh, and I need a nap. So
One of those, huh?
Yep. Okay, so till next week, have fun, stay safe,
Hey guys, have fun.
and remember, anything's possible.